Samsung Electronics announcing its fourth quarter profit surges some 76% due to smartphone sales. Joining me now is reporter Evan Ramstad from Seoul. Okay, Evan, Samsung's success is often equated with Apple's failure or vice versa. Is Samsung really gaining ground on Apple outside the U.S. market?
Well, yeah, but on the other hand, Samsung's always been ahead of Apple outside of the U.S. market, and in fact, inside of the U.S. market. I mean, if you take a look at the situation broadly, Samsung has always been one of the world's top cell phone makers, really, for the last 5, 6, 7 years or so. It has been number 2 in the world, past Nokia finally as number 1 last year or the year before. And so what people are doing, of course, is saying now, focusing on the fact that Samsung has now passed Apple in smartphones. And now part of that is Samsung's products have gotten better over the past couple of years, and their latest Galaxy S3 phone is being considered really one of the first alternatives to the Apple iPhone in coolness. But secondarily, the entire cell phone market is going into smartphones. And so it's only natural in some sense that a company that was huge in cell phones would also be huge in smartphones. Samsung has made this transition a little bit faster than some of the other incumbent cell phone makers in the world, but really not that much faster.
Okay, but there's obviously a lot more players on the ground today than there were several years back. Samsung obviously good at getting ahead of the curve back then, but any indication as to whether or not other smartphone makers aside from Apple are starting to cut into that competitive edge?
Well, are other smartphone makers starting to be as cool as Apple in a sense, or going to be at the high end? Only about half of Samsung's smartphones compete directly with Apple's at the high end. In other words, about half of the smartphones that Samsung sells are, low or mid-end models. They have a huge lineup. They have 5 different lines, I should say. They have Galaxy S, M, R, W, and Y. And those other 4 lines don't get talked much about. Of course, they're available in less affluent countries. India, for instance, you see marketing for Galaxy W and Galaxy Y much more than you see Galaxy S, right? So are other cell phone companies doing the same? Yes. I mean, they have lots of diverse lineups coming now from, you're hearing a lot from companies like ZTE, Huawei. LG is mostly at the high end, but has also started to move much more directly into the mid and low end markets. And so in a sense, the big broader story is that this year will be the first year that smartphones account for the majority of all cell phones sold in the world. And as you make that turn, lots and lots of people are going to have much more diverse lineups because, that's what the market calls for.
Okay, and obviously, as you just said, a lot of the success is in diversity. Any indication, has the company indicated which direction it's headed next to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, for Samsung, they are really focused on, being in all markets and at all price points and levels. Of course, they get the most attention for being up at the leading edge along with Apple, and it is because that race is so compelling to watch, and it's because Samsung has become the leading maker of the Android phones, which has become the main alternative to the iPhone and the iPhone's operating system. So lots of people are really, really focused on what the next version of the Galaxy S will be like. And we're not sure exactly when we're going to see that, but it's been striking to see how much hype there is around that phone. We wrote about this a few weeks ago in the journal, and it has continued. I mean, almost every day these gadget sites are trying to guess when Samsung is going to announce this phone, what features are going to be in it. And so that's where the next bit of attention is going to be, probably in the March or April or May timeframe.
Okay, we'll just see how much hype follows that. Given the amount of hype that before Apple sales, it's nice to see another competitor, people anticipating a launch of their product. Thanks very much, Evan Ramstad, joining us in Seoul. For more on that story, you could go to WSJ.com. I'm Deborah Kahn.